Welcome back to the Artefactors Union. I'm your host and foreman, Douglas Scoundrels, who is adjusting the lights. Right, we're assembling stuff. Today, we are assembling the Dashel... sorry, I forgot the title. This is Dashel Barker, the Old Guard box. It says Dashel Core box on this because this is the 3rd edition one, but 4th edition, they just go by the name and title of the master. And in this case, it is Dashel Barker, the Old Guard. So, here is our artwork. Finally, we got some box art. We got Dashel looking very stoic with a pretty static pose. And then his totem, the... Dispatcher, right. That's what he's called. Named model, Taggart Queeg, and then 3 Guild Riflemen, this being one of them. And there's not an extra art on this side. So, that's the artwork. Renders on the back. We got a bunch of humans looking human. Most dynamic poses are in the Rifleman, it seems. And that's great. They're going to be the harder one to assemble if we look at the sprue, which we're going to do next. Here is our sprue, one singular sheet, and that's nice and convenient for us. We got Dashel up here, Dispatcher over here, Queeg, Taggart Queeg over here, and then our 1, 2, 3 Riflemen. And if you can count, Rifleman got a lot of bits. Well, this one's got like 12, and the other one are slightly more reasonable, but still, relatively even numbers across the board. I don't think anything's going to be more complicated than the next, except for this guy, because he's got this little tiny piece. But we're not doing him first. We're going to do Dashel first. So let's go ahead and look at Dashel's instructions and then go over our assembly order. Here is our Dashel parts. We're going to grab the coat and then start by adding the legs to it, and then it might actually be easier to add the head next, because that connects to a tooth that is on the back of the coat. And then we'll connect everything with the torso and part of the coat. Then we'll go ahead and do the left arm, the right arm, and the armor on the right arm. So let's grab E6 first and add E4. Okay, here's E6, our coat, E4. This our legs. You can see the hole in the butt right there, and it's going to fit right on this bottom tooth. Looks good. Really just want to make sure that that is nice and flush. Next we'll do E5, the head. It is going to sit right on top of this other tooth here. There's a hole in the back of the neck, just like it was for the pants and legs, whatever. Alright. It fits in there quite snugly, so no worries here. Now we can add the torso, which is E2, which will also, I think, cover part of the jacket on this side, I guess. Obviously, gluing right in here, connecting these two pieces. Okay. Try and make sure this gap is sealed up as much as possible. Also, you might have a little bit of a gap in the waist. That's, if it's as long as the connection for the legs isn't completely solid, you can just squeeze up or push up on the belt, and that should close that gap. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and do the left arm. That bit is E7. Arm went in just fine. Now we do the right arm holding the axe, and that is E2. Or sorry, E1. Arm with axe. Goes in pretty simple as well. But now let's finish with E3, which is our armory bit, and that'll connect right along here on the shoulder. Okay. Looks like it goes all the way up to the neck, pretty much. So if you're wondering about orientation on that bit, no, that's how it's supposed to look. Okay, he's all done. Let's put him on a base. Dashel Barker, the Old Guard, is done. Relatively easy model. Hardest part was probably figuring out that legs, head, torso, assembly order, and the shield, the armor on the shoulder was a little weird, just figuring out the orientation, but that's really it. Pretty simple assembly, so hopefully that bodes well for the rest of the box, but we'll see. Let's go ahead and move on to the totem. For the dispatcher, we are also going to start with building up the torso like we did with Dashel. Grab F1, the backpack, and add F4, the torso. Then we can go ahead and do the legs. I'm guessing F3 here is the right leg and F2 is the left leg, but I could definitely be wrong. Once we're done with that, we'll do the head, F6. I think that's F6. Oh goodness. Oh, whatever. The right arm, the left arm, I think that'd be F8. Doesn't look like it's marked. And then finish with the forearm, the right forearm and hand holding this receiver thing. Lastly. Yep, that's all the bits there are. So let's go and grab F1 and F4 first. And look at the instructions. Okay, we've got our lovely backpack here, and we're just going to jam the torso on that. Yep, that's up. Oh yeah, almost exactly like that. See the backpack and the torso come together to form the armholes. Looks good. Okay, let's do the legs. I did guess correctly, so let's do the left leg first, which is F2. Okay. Leg as well. Seam looks good. Now let's do F3, the right leg. That's the leg. Butt looks fine. Seam looks good. Just make sure it can sit on a flat surface pretty well. Alright, next, the head F6 is going to go right there. There is a small tooth right on the back of the neck that slots into a hole on the neck stump, I guess. So it will be a nice tight fit. Okay, let's move on to our right arm F7. Should be like holding his ear. Okay. Just try to get those fingers as close to the ear of the headphones as possible. Alright, last two bits. Let's start with the top part of the left arm, which would be F8. I don't think it's labeled on the sprue, though. I'm just going to go right in the hole. Okay, there's the arm, and it's pretty wiggly. There's no real good way to explain the angle it's supposed to be on. And I don't think it matters a whole ton because he's just holding on to some kind of speaker device, microphone thing. So let's just go ahead and add that last bit, F5, to go on the end of the arm. And once you've got that in there, maybe you can move the arm up or down a little bit just to get it in a position you like. Okay, so let's add F5 right there. There we go. I'd say that's good enough for me. The only alignment you really need to worry about is that this isn't flash sprue line. It is actually like a cable that is going down his arm to connect to this microphone thing. So you should be able to follow the cable through the elbow up the forearm. Alright, our dispatcher is done. Let's put him on a base. The dispatcher is completed. Another relatively simple model. I mean, you got a human with a thing on its back. That's really it. Hardest part for him was orienting the arms, I think. They were just a little bit too easy, too free to move, which is helpful to get them to sit where you want them to, but knowing exactly where they're supposed to go if you want it to accurately reflect the render and the model on the art. It just takes a little bit of finagling. But that's it. Let's move on to the henchman. Taggart Queeg is next. Going to be probably our simplest build. Grab the body. We'll do the coat tails. And then this front part of the coat, I think, is on the front. Anyways, then we'll grab the head, add that, followed by the right arm, and finish with the rest of the whip, which connects down here. Okay, so let's look at him at his instructions. And then grab, what's our labeling here? D5 and D3. Okay. Here's our torso. Now let's just add D5 back here along the butt. Okay. Seems look fine. Now let's grab D6. Yep, D6. Going to attach right there. Cover up his crotch a bit. Looks good. Now let's do our head D4. Okay, he is obviously looking in the direction he is shooting, so his head is turned. Okay, second to last piece, the right arm. I genuinely cannot tell if it's D2 or D3 because they are D1 or D2 because they could be either. So it's this arm-shaped one. All right. That's a really good looking scene. Our last bit is the rest of the whip, and despite what the instructions kind of show you, the instructions are showing it to you from a better angle, but it's not accurate to the MIDI. It's just going to be sitting along the ground. You can see the coils in it. So I'm just going to actually attach it and put them on the base at the same time to get some support. Okay. Notice that it needs to go through his legs. But that's what it looks like. He's all done. Let's review. Taggart Queeg is done. Yet again, another pretty simple model. I'd say the hardest part for him was figuring out how the whip worked with wrapping around his legs. It was a little confusing, but once you know how it's supposed to go, it's a lot simpler. So, hard for me, easy for you. Yeah, I guess that's it. Let's move on. Ooh, okay. I forgot about the existence of this recording. My bad. I did my nails. Say hi. Right, we're on to Rifleman now. Here's our sprue. It's a long sprue. It's a very long sprue. Well, we'll be fine. We've got them labeled 1, 2, and 3, and that matches up to A, B, C on the instructions, which we'll go ahead and look at right now. Alright, separator between A and B is this sprue part right there, and lucky for us, the bits are also labeled with the correct lettering of each of the Riflemen. And oh goodness, I just realized that Rifleman C isn't actually labeled on the... yeah, whatever. Anyways, for the order of assembly, we're going to grab the torso and we're going to add both of the legs and then this little tiny piece of their belt. Not entirely sure where it's going to go. Then after that, we'll do the sort of clasp of the coat. We'll go ahead and do the left arm, perhaps, and then the gun, and then the right arm. That order might be different. I'm not entirely sure yet. And then we can go ahead and do the top of the hat, the brim of the hat, the top of the hat, and then finish with the coat and the other coat bit. Right, I think this is the most complicated one out of all of them. So once we're done with them, we can move on to easier stuff. So let's grab A4, whatever this is, A3 and A10. Okay? Okay, we've got ourselves a torso, and then A7. Goodness, one sec. I'm still not entirely sure how that numbering scheme works, so we're just gonna describe each bit as we get there, okay? So let's go ahead and do the bent leg, the one that isn't spread out, which is going to be the left leg, so I'm going to attach right there. Okay. There's the leg. You can see where that belt piece is going to go on the back. But now let's grab our leg that is sort of spread out forward, which is the right leg. Add that there now. Okay. Crotch. And the butt shot. Okay, you can see exactly where that belt bit is going to go. Although, I honestly am not entirely sure why we bothered putting it there because the coat is going to be completely covering it. But, anyways, that bit, again, because I keep forgetting where it is on the sprue, is this little tiny piece of shit right here. Right below the hat brim. So, just because of the curve, I can tell this side is the side that's up. Okay, even more time to stare at this Rifleman's butt. That goes in there just fine. I was a little worried that'd be kind of hard to squeeze in there with if you put the legs on first. But no, it went in just fine. You just have to worry about it being a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. But if you lose it, I don't think anyone's going to care because no one's going to see it. Alright. Now let's go with the front of the coat, the clasp of the coat, whatever you want to call it. Which, right, I am just showing you the bit because God knows what the actual numbering is. We'll do that guy. Order be this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. Okay. And that bit will cover up both it'll attach in both of these holes in the chest. Okay, here's the bit attached. Bit of a warning. This right here in the middle is a weak spot. It's a small amount of plastic. If you put too much pressure on either side of the bit, it will bend or possibly break. I didn't break mine, but even if you did, I'm pretty sure you could glue both halves into the model and it'll look just fine, so not too big of a worry. Now, I'm going to go ahead and change up the order I was initially thinking this would be in, because I didn't realize there's a very nice connection point for the butt of the rifle. So we're actually going to add the rifle first, putting the butt right there, and then we'll add the arms quickly after it so that everything will line up correctly, okay? So, gun first. Alright, there's the gun. It is being scoped through the left eye. There we go. That's what it looks like, and again, it's a pretty solid connection. So next up is going to be the left arm. It's going to attach right there. Probably be connecting to where the trigger is. There's the arm, and yep, its fingers are going into the trigger. So now we can move on to the right arm, which connect at this elbow here, and then you can see there is a chunk taken out of the gun down here. I'm guessing that's where that's going to go, but it might be somewhere else. The hand's going to attach somewhere on the gun. Let's just use the elbow as a guide. I feel like she should be holding that gun further out down the barrel, but there's the hand and the elbow. You're definitely going to want to jam the hand in there first in that connection point before you try attaching it at the elbow, because that's real finicky and it's going to take some solid pressure and wiggling to get that to jam in there. But alright, done with the arms, done with the gun. Now we can move on to the hat. Let's go ahead and grab our hat brim and glue it right in there. Alright, as far as positioning, we can see the bottom of the bit here. This is her hair, and there is a notch on the back of her head where that ponytail is going to glue into. So that's our orientation, so go ahead and glue that now. Okay, just need to make sure that the hole aligns with the tooth that is on the top of her head. You can see the little ponytail down there. And you could probably actually glue the hat brim to the top of the rifle scope if you wanted. But now we should be able to add the top of the hat, and that'll just fit right in there. And then we can work on the coat. Alright, that's the top of the hat. Slot it in just fine. Now let's grab the big old coat, cloak, whatever, this guy, and attach it to the back of her neck. I almost stabbed myself. You can see this big old tooth right there. That's where it'll connect. Okay. Obviously that coat is going to be sitting on the ground, but I want to try and make it aligned with the part of the bit that went on her chest. It's a little bit off here, but I didn't want to fiddle with it too much without breaking something. It looks good enough. Alright, now let's do the last bit of the cape, which is going to connect right along there. Okay, with enough fiddling, you'll make that seam almost disappear. Alright, she's done. Let's put her on a base. Our first rifleman is done. We're going to call her Jessie. And this is actually pretty tough. Several difficult parts. The belt on the back, the front chest clasp of the coat thing being fragile, jamming the hand into the rifle was also kind of tough. Just overall, fairly difficult build, but I think it's probably going to be the hardest one in this box, and it's not too hard. Like, everything is either fixable, or if you lose the tiny belt piece, no one's going to care, or see it for that matter. So yeah, that's it. Let's move on. On to our second rifleman. This one, go ahead and grab the main body, B3, followed by the left arm, B7. Let's say B7. Then the gun, B1. The right arm, B6. Top of the hat, B4. Brim of the hat, B4. No, the hat bit's B7, then this must be B5. Whatever. Then we'll do the top of the hat and the coat and be done. Considerably fewer bits. Hooray. Alright, grab B3 and then B5. We've got the body. Now let's just add our left arm in that arm socket. Right there. There's our arm, but it's not the most solid of a connection, so I think actually let's just go and put the coat on. Now I didn't realize the coat was part of the arm sockets. So let's do that now, that bit being B2. Going on the back. Okay. Coat's on. Let's go ahead and add the rifle now. The butt stock will be connected right there, and then there should be a notch on the bottom that will connect to the left hand. Okay, there's the hands. Oops. And you can see that's where the rifle butt connects. Hand from the other side. Alright, now let's go ahead and do the right arm, which should end up being on the trigger. Alright. There's the shoulder. Okay, only 2 bits left. We've got the top of the head with the hat brim. The hat has a nice little tooth on it right there, that square bit, which will go into the back of the head. Okay. That's the back of the head and the front of the face. Alright, now let's do the top of the hat. And we've got top of the hat. Okay, second rifleman done. Base him. Our second rifleman is done. We're going to call this one James. Definitely simpler than the first one. Hardest part, maybe figuring out how the hat works. I don't know. You know, we'll say the right arm, getting those fingers to sort of snap in to where the trigger is, actually was a little bit difficult for me, but that was mostly because I wasn't entirely sure how it was supposed to look. But yeah, it's supposed to be really flush up against the gun, with the fingers obviously being where the trigger is supposed to be. If it looks a little weird to you, you probably just need to finagle it just slightly so it'll pop in there. Okay, let's do the last one. Alright, our last rifleman. Gonna go and grab the body and then do the coat second. Then we can do the arm with the gun, the arm that doesn't have the gun, then head, brim, hat, top. Right? So let's grab these 2 pieces first. Okay, here's our torso. Now let's add our coat. I guess it was somewhat inaccurate. This is the torso and the lower legs, and then the coat is the upper torso. Anyways, our gun arm is the right arm, so let's add that to our shoulder socket. And probably, I'm going to guess the gun butt goes there. Okay, there's the shoulder, and yep, that's where the gun butt goes. So now let's go ahead and add our left arm, go in the shoulder socket, and the hand's going to fit right there. Okay, I'm realizing I probably should have gone in before the rifle. It just took a little bit of squeezing to get it in there. So, not the end of the world, but it's probably what you should do. Okay, next up is going to be our hat brim. I'm throwing it on the ground, I guess. There's the tooth, and there's the connection point. Notice that the tooth is sort of a semicircle, so there's a flat side to it. And this is also a semicircle with the flat side, so it'd go in like that for me. Alright. There's the hat brim. Now just do the hat top. Remember, the peak goes in the front. Okay. Head's all done, body's all done, gun's all done. Put them on a base. Our third rifleman is done, and for lack of creativity, we're gonna call this one Meowth. My kid's been watching way too much Pokemon. Anyways, hardest part for this guy was, for me, snapping the head into the neck socket with the gun in the way, but you don't have to do it in that order. Yeah, probably just an easy build, so not going to talk a whole ton about it. Now let's look at the whole box. Dashel Barker, the old guard, is done. Yeah, okay. So, hardest parts for this was really in the Rifleman more than the other models, although the whip was a little bit weird, figuring out how that's exactly supposed to go in. Overall, pretty simple box. I mean, it's a bunch of humanoid characters with not a bunch of extra bits, so hopefully it's not going to be that hard. I guess I'd have to say hardest part would be just generally Rifleman 1. Rifleman 1 having a whole crap ton of bits and some pretty sketchy connection points. So I'd say Rifleman 1 in general is the hardest part. But yeah, I would definitely suggest this for beginner modelers as far as simplicity goes. So I have been your foreman, Douglas Scoundrels, helping you build a better Malifaux.